Socrates claimed a voice guided him.
Relax.
A voice no one else could hear.
Go to sleep.
He trusted that voice more than the law, more than logic. He called the voice his daemon. One of ancient Greece's most iconic philosophers, Socrates, was sentenced to death by the Athenian court for impiety and for corrupting the youth. In his final defense, Socrates mentioned an inner voice, his daemon, that warned him away from wrongdoing. The charge of impiety meant that he was accused of not honoring the city's official gods. Corrupting the youth referred to encouraging young Athenians to question traditional beliefs and authority, something that alarmed many of his critics. The word daemon comes from Greek mythology and refers to spiritual intermediaries, similar to angels. It's also technically the root of the modern word demon, but Socrates never described the voice as a being. He spoke only of daemonic signs. So what exactly was this guiding presence? Socrates is considered a foundational figure in Western philosophy. He left no written works of his own, but taught through live conversation. His method, which we now call the Socratic method, used dialogue to challenge assumptions and uncover deeper truths. His student Plato captured these conversations in dramatic works featuring Socrates as the central character. 4 of Plato's most famous dialogues, Euthyphro, Apology, Crito, and Phaedo, focus on Socrates' final days. These texts document the charges against him, his defense in court, and his final reflections. Each of these dialogues captures a distinct tone. Euthyphro begins with irony, Apology presents a direct defense, Crito grapples with justice and law, and Phaedo offers a philosophical farewell. Through these dialogues, we witness how Socrates justified his life and his choices. He often referred to daemonic signs, a kind of inner signal or voice that guided him. Some interpreted this as a guardian spirit or a heightened conscience. Socrates said it influenced his decision not to escape execution. He placed unwavering trust in these signs. They shaped his beliefs, directed his moral decisions, and ultimately played a role in how he faced death. Understanding this daemon is essential to understanding Socrates himself. Today, the word demon has meanings far removed from its ancient Greek origins. In philosophy, demons are sometimes used in imaginative scenarios, like Descartes' deceiving demon or Laplace's all-knowing one. Descartes' demon was imagined to deceive the senses, and Laplace's demon to calculate the universe's future. But Socrates spoke of his daemon not as an idea, but as something he heard, something he lived by. He relied on it in real life. Christian ideas have also reshaped the word demon. In that tradition, demons are evil, fallen angels. But the Greek daemon referred to spiritual beings that could help or harm. They weren't inherently evil. Ancient Greek religion featured gods and spirits whose motivations were complex. The term daemon described a spiritual presence, neither devil nor deity, but something in between. That space between worlds, between meaning and mystery, is exactly where Socrates' daemon lived. If this kind of ancient mystery speaks to you, you are in good company. At TheCollector, we follow the same threads Socrates once did, searching for meaning in the margins. Subscribing is the easiest way to stay on the path with us. Thanks for watching. Let's keep going. And the path continues with Plato. He chose his words carefully. The phrase Socrates' daemon might lead us to imagine a distinct spiritual creature. However, in the original Greek, Plato refers to daemonic signs, voices, or qualities, not beings. Greek, like English, used separate words for spiritual traits and spiritual entities. Plato described the daemonic as a quality, a signal or message with divine connections. In this worldview, the divine was often too distant to access directly. The daemonic bridged that gap, mysterious yet accessible, abstract but real. In the Symposium, Socrates talks about love as a daemon, something that links people to what they desire. Diotima, a figure in the dialogue, describes demonic activity as occupying the space between gods and mortals, encompassing rituals, prayers, and oracles. These were not gods, but carried divine energy. So while Socrates didn't name a being guiding him, his signs still pointed to something divine. The term daemon might apply, but only as a description of spiritual influence, not literal being. Among Plato's dialogues about Socrates' final days, Apology provides the most direct insight into his daemon. On trial, facing accusations of impiety and corruption, Socrates remains calm and reflective. He explains that a voice has always stopped him from certain actions. He followed it throughout his life. He didn't mention the daemon casually. It was essential to how he explained his mission, his restraint, and his decision to accept the death sentence without fear. After he's sentenced to death, Phaedo describes the aftermath. However, in the Apology, Socrates directly addresses the charge of impiety. His critics claimed he ignored Athens' gods and listened to foreign spiritual influences. The language matters. Theos referred to traditional gods. Daemonic described unconventional spiritual signs. Socrates used the latter to explain his experiences. His testimony about the daemonic sign was central to his defense and to our understanding of it. Socrates also referenced the Oracle of Delphi. According to him, the priestess once declared him the wisest man in Athens. Trying to understand this, he questioned those who he thought were wise. In doing so, he embarrassed powerful figures and made enemies, contributing to the charges against him. When accused of atheism, Socrates claimed he was following the god of the oracle. He believed that philosophical inquiry brought him closer to the divine. Since Apollo spoke through the oracle, Socrates saw himself as obeying Apollo's will. That may shed light on his understanding of the daemonic voice. To question others and to expose ignorance was, in his view, a form of service to Apollo, a way to honor the god by pursuing wisdom, wherever it might lead. In Apology, Socrates says the daemon warned him, not about major choices, but about small actions. It didn't direct him, only stopped him. What made it unique was its restraint. It never commanded, never argued, it only intervened in silence, offering no explanations, only a boundary. Socrates called it something divine or daemonic. Some have called it a conscience, but Socrates believed it was more than that. He compared it to prophecy. The Greek word mantis means prophet, and the art of prophecy is called mantic. Socrates described his daemon as a humble form of prophecy. That word choice connects his voice to the oracle and suggests a divine origin. Mantic knowledge came through dreams, signs, and sudden intuition. Forms of prophecy less dramatic than oracles, but still deeply respected in Greek culture. By linking the daemon to prophecy, Socrates situated it within a broad spiritual realm. It wasn't just about personal morality. It touched on the soul, truth, and the afterlife. These themes appear again in Phaedo, where Socrates reflects on what lies beyond death. He spoke of eternal truths, forms, and the soul's path, viewing philosophy as a sacred task. Though accused of irreverence, Socrates' spiritual views echoed a widespread belief in layered spiritual realms, where divine forces could act in subtle ways. Socrates acknowledged that his prophetic gift was limited, unlike that of the oracle. However, Greek religion accepted various forms of prophecy. His voice was one, the oracle was another, and both could point to the divine. We often assume ancient Greeks took their myths literally, that gods like Zeus actually lived on Mount Olympus. But mythology often had symbolic meanings. For many, these stories served most importantly as teaching tools, ways to explain natural forces, human behavior, or the mysteries of life and death. Myths could blur the line between story and belief. Daemonic signs, like Socrates' voice or the oracle's messages, were not embodied, but gods, like Apollo, were considered to be beings. Did Socrates believe Apollo spoke through him? He never said so directly. In Apology, he cited the god of the oracle to prove his spiritual credibility. He described a daemonic sign, not a spirit. He he rejected the idea that his daemon was a guardian or demon. Instead, he framed it as a prophetic signal, a divine alert. Not possession, not madness, just prophecy. Socrates never claimed his inner voice came from a god or a spirit. He described it as a demonic kind of prophecy. He used the term daemonic to describe these signs, but rarely used the word daemon to mean a creature. It's like the difference between angel and angelic. Something angelic is not necessarily a being. Likewise, Socrates' daemonic signs weren't entities, just messages. He didn't claim to see spirits. He only described a voice. The difference between daemon and daemonic might seem small, but it does matter. Socrates didn't say he knew a spirit. He spoke of daemonic signs, prophetic signals, and divine impressions. He named Apollo as a witness, but never described divine encounters. To understand his daemon, we must look beyond beings to Plato's world of forms. There, in the space between thought and inspiration, Socrates listened, not to a god, not to a demon, but to something daemonic, a whisper of truth that shaped how he lived and how we still think today. That silence, that subtle inward check, may have been the closest Socrates ever came to touching the divine, a signal from the world of forms, whispering into the world of men.